All right, welcome to this edition of the Third Rail. As you can see, how to point? Which way do I point? This way? No, it's this way. Somebody's missing. Somebody's missing. I believe in full transparency, so I wanted to come and talk to you just for a few minutes and tell you what happened. I had planned and I had been looking for somebody to come and talk to me about reaching Jewish Americans for Christ, reaching them with the gospel. Talked to several people, no response. Finally, a gentleman responded, said I'd do it. Before he went on today, we were set and ready, all ready to go. He said, let me talk to you. He called me and asked me some questions, and he disagreed with some of my positions. I'm not going to mention who it is or anything like that, but he said, I can't do it. I can't be represented on your channel because you hold these particular positions. You don't agree with us on this, that, or the other. And maybe sometime in the future we could talk about the particulars, but it doesn't really matter. Here we have a man whose living is reaching people with the gospel. The fact that they're Jews, that's specifically what he's supposed to be doing. And so I'm not upset with anybody. I understand. When you have somebody, now this gentleman is a part of a mission board, and I totally understand that if he feels that it would compromise his standing with the mission board by being interviewed and asked questions and on a channel where we didn't toe the line. You've got to toe the line, the party line on Israel with whoever you're talking. If you want to talk, if you disagree, you're out. You're out. I had a friend, I'm not going to say who, on Facebook that I had put out and asked for questions. Nobody gave any questions. And this one gentleman, I love him to death, he said, it's just, I'm paraphrasing, it's just too hot a subject. I'm not going to get involved with it. Not even by giving you a question. What in the world is wrong here? By the way, this gentleman, on his disagreements, were they with doctrine? No. It's with politics. If you don't agree with the politics, I can't talk with you. So let's not talk about how to keep people from going to hell. Let's talk about politics of a country that we're not even citizens of. So again, full transparency here. I just wanted to let you know I gave it my best shot. I'll probably never find anybody willing to come on and talk about these questions. I'm going to read you the questions. Not all of them, because some of them are specific to this person, an individual. But I'm going to just talk to you about what I had here. That's all. But the only time I could probably find anybody if they were an independent. But when your livelihood is dependent on a certain party line, a certain thought process, or whatever, we're not talking doctrine. And if it affects income, I understand. Do I agree with it? I understand the point. I'm not mad at the guy. I mean, I understand it. We had a good conversation. We disagreed and parted company, and that's fine. So let me just go over some of these questions I had for him. Let's see here. We get past the... Okay, first thing, I wanted to tell him a story that happened to me years ago. I was in the Reno, Nevada area and was asked by a young lady in Georgia, I believe. She contacted me and asked me to visit her grandfather, which I did. She said he is Japanese American. Okay, so I went to speak to him. He had been interred in a camp in California during World War II. He showed me the letter from President George H.W. Bush apologizing for that, and he received also like $20,000 in reparations for that. His wife had passed. I'm going to guess, he was around 70-ish at that time. I visited with him twice. The reason he refused, and he told me flat out, he said, Dave, I understand what you're saying. Look, I can't even consider what you're saying. It would be an insult to my dead parents. Japanese culture. I wanted to ask this gentleman about that. I've heard stories. Is it true in the Jewish community? If a Jewish person accepts Christ, are they ostracized? That was, and tell me some stories about that. Other question is, do Christians tend to look at Jews differently when it comes to witnessing? And I just wanted to get onto that and say, because this aura of, God's chosen people, do Christians think they don't need to be witnessed to? Do they shy away from it? Does it affect it at anything? And of course, how that persona on the Jewish Americans, how that makes them feel. Do they need to even listen to you because of who they have status? Now, I'm going to jump ahead here, and I was going to ask him about this, but you've heard of Pastor John Hagee down in Texas. And he teaches that Jewish people have a special relationship with God and can attain salvation through adherence to the Old Covenant, suggesting they do not need to accept Jesus for salvation. I was going to ask him, is that right or not? Of course, it's wrong. It's wrong. But that church down there, that pastor, and those people sitting there believe that's true. All right. I was going to ask him about that. What are the common reasons, or some common reasons given for rejecting the message of the gospel when they're approached? Look, they're just people like anybody else. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Do you witness to them differently? I mean, how does that work? Now, obviously, I have no experience, and I was going to show him, and I took Dr. Jacob Gartenhouse's course on Jewish evangelism years ago, and I've forgotten most everything in the book, but I still have the book material. It's excellent. But are we to approach it differently? I wanted to ask and find out. How many different types, air quotes, types of Jews are there? There's Orthodox, there's liberal, there's all kinds of things. Years ago when I was in the Air Force, I had the opportunity to go down to Hollywood to go to a Bible conference with a preacher friend of mine. Of course, I was very young, much younger then, obviously. And we, during the break in the afternoon, we went down the street, right down the street in Hollywood, and visited a Jewish synagogue. They welcomed us in, gave us the, would it be the Torah to read? It had both Hebrew and English. And we talked to the rabbi afterwards. Actually, the pastor did. I did not. I was sitting there listening and learning. Of course, he was a liberal Jew. He believed that the Messiah had already come. Maybe that affects others than just liberals. I don't know. That would be a question I would ask, but I can't find anybody to ask. They don't want to lose their paycheck. So, no offense. When you're out knocking doors and a Jew answers the door, if they tell you that they are Jewish, how else would you know? Should you change your gospel presentation? I think that would be important to know. There probably is a technique. I wanted to ask him any experience with Gentiles who've converted to Judaism. This is an interesting question, I think. You have, and even in the Bible, in the scriptures, you have the Ethiopian eunuch I believe he was a Jewish proselyte, that they refused to baptize him. The Jews refused to baptize him. So he was trying to convert to Judaism, and that has happened for thousands of years. And what happens? Do you witness to them any differently? Is it the same? They're not really Jews. They're Gentiles who are just following the Jewish religion. At least that's my interpretation of it. I wanted to learn more. I can't. So, what else we have here? I wanted to ask him lastly, or close to lastly, in your opinion, based on your experience, what percentage of Bible-believing churches have an active ministry to reach the Jewish people in America? And our church is doing enough to reach this community? I think the answer, of course, is no. It's never discussed. You hardly ever hear it. It's very small. And I don't know, it's perplexing. The whole thing is perplexing to me. The stigma, be that as it may, I gave it my best shot. One day, maybe I'll find an independent that would be willing to come on and talk, and we can get some solid answers and some helps, and see what we can do. But how many Jewish Americans have you ever run into if you're out witnessing? It's got to be rare. I can't recall, honestly, outdoor knocking ever running into anybody that was Jewish American. And of course, the only way you would know is if they would tell you. So, regardless, the same gospel saves them that saves anybody else. So again, total transparency. Wanted to come on and show you, tell you what happened. Is it a failure? No, it's not a failure. It's a learning experience. It's something I did think about when I started this search to try to find some answers to some questions, but that's just the way it goes, folks. And there are Christians out there, you know who they are, that are just wrapped up with politics. Politics. Okay, whatever. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great day.